Hey, I'm Mike, the political science guy. Thanks for tuning in. If you've seen Wavy Gravy and his student confederates out on some campus near you holding hands and blocking people off and chanting slogans that sound vaguely familiar to slogans you might have heard from student protesters in decades of yore, well, they're back again. And so I want to talk a little bit about student protests. What does it really do? Does it help or is it counter-effective? Depends on what they're protesting to a certain extent and how they're doing it to a certain extent. So, you know, John Lennon had this great line in Revolution, and if you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, you ain't gonna make it with anyone anyhow. So when you got student protesters that are out there talking about, for example, ejecting all of the Jews from what they call Palestine, that's kind of, you know, genocidal stuff. And so it's going to be very polarizing. It's not a message like Save the Whales. It's not a message that's generally going to be accepted. It's a very polarizing message. And in as much as a lot of these folks are just kind of like Henrietta Hempstead, who's, you know, was playing hacky sack, and, you know, she and Freebo went down to the protest because it was the social thing to do. They often are not aware of a lot of things, like what does river to the sea mean? What it means from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, and so all of that area shall be free, meaning free of the Jews, right? Or, for example, they don't know that Hamas is into playing, you know, Superman with anybody that they find that's gay or trans, that they might be taking a flying lesson off of a 4-story building in Rafah. So they're unaware of a lot of the things that really would make it important for them to be able to have credibility. Subsequently, when you do kind of choose to sign up and protest and pump your fist in the air for a cause, and you're just doing it because someone else told you to come, or an activist specifically told you to come, you're kind of, in the digital age, exposing yourself to being really embarrassed later in life when you realize that, hey man, I really shouldn't have done that because these Hamas people are not really the people that I could relate to, and they certainly wouldn't tolerate me. They wouldn't tolerate my tie-dye shirts or t-shirts. They wouldn't tolerate my transgenderism support or a bunch of other things. So it's really important to remember that these are what Stalin would call useful idiots. These are people that could be rallied by an activist. Now, remember in a previous episode we talked about what activists are. So you have leaders, which are often policymakers, then you have activists that rabble up people and get them excited and get them to do things, pump their fists in the air, give money, show up at a march is a perfect example, and you have followers. These are the bozos that will show up and pump their fists in the air and give the money, right? Then you have individuals, which hopefully, you know, if you follow enough of these, you'll kind of be your own. You'll make your own minds up. And if you do go to an event, you go because you did your research and you know that this is something that I can defend. There's plenty in the digital age of examples of folks that go out onto protest scenes and ask questions of the protesters, and sometimes some of the protesters have like a Fruit of Islam that'll muscle the questionnaires out of the way, because it's the Socratic method of, you know, asking questions of the opposition to see what they know and can they defend what they're doing. A lot of times these folks can't. A lot of times these folks, you know, kind of crumple in on themselves. So in a way, you don't want to be that kind of person. The other thing about student protesters is that if you're on a campus, and that campus has all kinds of rules about protecting people's feelings and their sensitivity and feeling that it's a safe space and so forth and so on, then what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So that means that if you are saying, hey, Jews should be thrown out of Israel, well, that's kind of a, you know, an ethnic cleansing, right? So would you be able to say that? This is the great litmus test. Could you say blacks should be thrown out of Mississippi or out of this campus? And if you could say to yourself, no, I could never pump my fist and ask for that, then that's a good point to say, maybe this isn't real, and maybe I'm being made a useful idiot. And if I'm being made a useful idiot, maybe I should sit back a little bit and let the activists answer a few of my questions about why I'm doing what I'm doing. So just remember, student protesters have a place sometimes, but often they're manipulated and they are useful idiots. I appreciate you checking in on me. This is Mike the Political Science Guy, and I look forward to hearing from you in the future. Take care.